Hi, my name's Ahmed and I'm the communications lead for the National and Regional Talent Boards. I work within the talent team in the People Directorate.
Hi, my name's Danielle Oum. I'm chair of Birmingham and Solihull Mental Health Trust and also the chair of Coventry and Warwickshire Integrated Care System.
What attracted you to working with the NHS?
I was working in community regeneration and I was particularly focused on employment and skills. I was working in one of the most disadvantaged areas of the country, the Black Country. And I was looking at working across all of the local authorities there to develop employment and skills strategies. And it became clear that it was quite difficult to do that effectively without understanding the broader context of people's lives. So I decided I needed to learn more about health and housing and joined boards in both sectors to build my own knowledge so that I could provide holistic strategies that cut across all of the services that people needed. And that's what got me hooked.
How do you and your colleagues generate great ideas in your organisation or part of the system?
We have our formal meetings, but we also have less formal board development sessions and workshops and seminars. And sometimes those are topics that we will lead upon ourselves, maybe one of the executives or some input from non-executive colleagues, or we might bring in outside organisations, either partners within the system, or it could be completely external, sharing ideas from what's happened either within the sector or from beyond. And so we have a mixture of things like that to build on ideas.
How has the NHS supported you to grow and develop in your career to get to this point?
I've had very, very effective induction programmes, both at trust level to understand the organisation that I'm involved with, but also provided nationally. So originally it was from the Appointments Commission, and more recently it has been NHS providers that have provided that sort of development. Also, I find that the NHS has a large range of development opportunities, such as the conferences that you can go to, NHS Confederation, NHS providers. There are seminars and workshops that are either led or commissioned by NHS England. NHSEI do a range of regular catch-ups with chairs and chief execs where that you can have discussions, debate topics. I've also had the opportunity to be involved in developing pieces of work. So, for example, I was asked by the regional team to be involved as chair for a health and equalities work stream throughout the pandemic. That was in the Midlands. I was also invited to join the Regional Talent Board, so I was involved in shaping the Midlands Regional Talent Board, Aspire. So there's a whole range of opportunities, and you can really follow your interest because there's so much on offer.
Brilliant. Sounds really, really varied, and I guess you can choose different things at different points within your career as well.
Exactly.
Can I ask you what roles you've had along the way, what different roles you've had within the NHS along the way?
Yeah, so I was the chair of the community services provider, and then I became a non-executive director at Walsall Healthcare NHS Trust, which was an acute trust that was integrated with community services. I then left there to become the chair of Dudley and Walsall Mental Health Trust, and then after that Walsall Healthcare went into special measures. It had been rated inadequate, so I was asked to go back as chair to help turn it around. So I did that, and then after that joined Birmingham and Solihull Mental Health Trust as chair, and now I'm also the chair of Coventry and Warwickshire ICF.
Brilliant, and I suppose it's great that you've had that experience in that region, so you can transfer those skills from one organisation to another and that knowledge too.
It's invaluable really, and of course the networks are useful as well because you can know who's doing what, and you can ask them to share ideas, and you can share ideas with them too.
And talking of like people who help you, like networks within your, as part of your career, I've personally found that mentors have played a really huge part in helping me to grow and learn and progress in my career. Have you ever had a mentor who supported you throughout your career, and how did they support your progression?
I've not had a formal arrangement as such, but I've had several people that I have respected and valued their opinion, and so at different stages in my career I will have spent time maybe sounding out ideas with them in a safe space, so quite similar to that. Some of those have been external to the NHS, and some of those have been within the NHS, so it's been quite a varied range, and it's not always necessarily people who are senior.
How do you continue to grow and develop as a leader yourself?
Well, I continue to grow by continuing to immerse myself in the range of development opportunities that I've described. So last week I was in London for a conference organised by the Race Health Observatory, which was fantastic, and it had contributors from all over the world. So there's always the opportunity to develop and learn, and I make sure that I take advantage of that.
What talents do you use in your role?
One of the most important things is to get people coalescing around a shared vision. So that's something that I'm very focused on. I also really focus on making sure that I'm building a team where people can share their ideas and use the expert knowledge that they bring. Everybody on the team has got different levels of experience, different areas of interest from their background that they can, that they can contribute positively if you create the environment where people feel able to come forward and do that. So creating that sort of environment and that culture of being able to ask any questions and not feel silly about it, and people's points of view being valued, that's really important. I think those are probably the most important talents that I use.
From what you're saying, it's more about creating space to let other people step up and lead as well, isn't it?
That's right, yeah.
And what do you find most rewarding and meaningful in your current role?
Talking directly with colleagues who are involved in delivering services, and work and talking to patients as well and service users. I've launched an initiative at my own trust. Today was the first day actually, and it's called Pull Up a Chair with the Chair. So myself and the Vice Chair, anybody from the trust can contact my PA and book to talk to us about anything they want. And so we had the first 3 sessions today, and they were fantastic. So we had somebody who wanted to just talk to us about a project. A doctor wanted to talk to us about a project that they were involved in, which was about promoting health and well-being amongst junior doctors. We had a member of staff that had left the trust after 28 years working for the trust and had quite negative experiences, and come back 3 years later and could see positive changes and wanted to let us know what we were doing well and what we needed to go faster on. And then the third person was a patient, and they were wanting to talk to us about their lived experience and where the trust could be more patient-centred. So that was my morning this morning. That's the sort of thing that I think of as, really sums up what I'm here for, and it's fantastic to be able to have the time to have those conversations, and they're so enriching.
And what advice can you share with people aspiring to be a senior leader with the NHS or anywhere within the wider system?
I would say be really clear about who you are and what you stand for. You're pursuing maybe a career development in a very large organisation, an organisation that is always under the political spotlight. It is possible to lose your way, but you need to hold on to your principles and your integrity. And as long as you're putting the interests of patients and the colleagues that serve patients first, you'll be able to keep yourself grounded in reality.
Fantastic. And if you could advise yourself a couple of things, two things at the start of your career, what would you say?
I think I would say, having the sort of clarity that I just talked about, and being calm and assertive is quite important, and being able to cut through, because you get bombarded as a non-executive director with a lot of paper, a lot of information. I mean, when I first started it out, it literally was paper. You'd get piles of paper that thick through your door. And I've always been a goody two-shoes that feels the need to read every single word, and I still do. But you've got to be able to stand back and see the wood for the trees, and cling on to what's important. So that's the message that I would give to myself all those years ago when I was, worrying about making sure that I got the terminology right, etc.
In terms of risk-taking, what's the most important risk you have taken and why?
Probably the most important risk I've taken is when I was the chair of Walsall Healthcare NHS Trust. So it had been rated inadequate. I'd been asked to come in and help turn it around. Obviously partners were concerned, patients were concerned, the public was concerned, regulators were concerned, and so there was a lot of pressure to really be able to show improvement very quickly. CQC came back, and during my interview with them, I said that I didn't think that we should be taken out of special measures yet. And so obviously not everybody thought that was, not everyone was really pleased that I was that honest with the CQC. But I just think, we weren't ready, we needed the support. You do get a lot of support when you're in special measures. And it meant that when they did come back later on and we were scored requires improvement and on the trajectory, it was a strong requires improvement rather than just over the line with the risk of slipping back.
So in terms of how that must have felt at the time, obviously like you said, it's huge pressure on all of the individuals involved, but also on you in your leadership role there. How did you and how do you maintain your health and well-being at work? And if you've got any advice to others that you can give as well, that would be great.
I feel healthiest when I feel that I'm confident that I'm sticking to my principles of integrity. If there was any sort of non-alignment of that, it would make me feel physically ill. And so that's really important for me to be able to come away and say, what have I done positively today that's contributed positively, rather than what have I done to keep myself in a job. That's never been my style. And so that is really important to me. I also obviously make sure that I've got relationships at work where I can have honest, frank conversations with people. In fact, it's not just down to me. But yeah, that's really important to me.
I think that's really interesting actually, because when we think of health and well-being, we think of taking care of our health and physical and mental health outside of work. But actually, if you're operating in a way that's completely at odds with your core values, that's going to have an impact on your health, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
In terms of challenges and barriers, what barriers have you yourself faced along the journey, and how have you overcome them?
The challenges that I've faced have been the challenges associated with being part of turning around organisations that are in a difficult place. Organisational culture. If people are part of that culture and don't see that there's a problem, then that is a challenge. So that's something that I've been involved in.
And obviously compassion, you've talked about values a lot. Compassion and inclusion are hugely important values within the NHS. And we don't always get that right. What is your advice to employees from marginalised communities on how they can progress to senior roles?
Yeah, it's a huge challenge because the NHS has not got a strong track record on this. Obviously, it's something that we're all working to address now. So really important as as people who are in those groups that are underrepresented, and obviously Black and Asian staff are very high up amongst those, is first of all, don't allow your ambition to be sort of squashed. And I would say now to people coming up now, have expectations of better, because we were in a very hostile environment. We're now in an environment where people are recognizing that that's not acceptable, and also recognizing that we haven't got the amount of talent that we can afford to just squander it. So recognize that what you have is of value, and then put your best foot forward. Of course, there are barriers to be overcome, because things don't change overnight. So make sure that you use the proper processes, your appraisal, that you get your appraisal, that you make it clear where you want to get to, that you actively seek support from your line manager, and what other processes are around to support you. But if that's not forthcoming, also work on your network so that you're aware of opportunities that they arise, and that you can go sideways, diagonally, etc. as well. There isn't just one route to where you want to get to, and I think it's not allowing yourself to just be sort of stuck and pigeonholed in a way that many of maybe my generation or slightly older than me were in the past. That can't be allowed to continue.
Brilliant, thank you. And I think the point about networks is really, really important. Having people to talk to just makes such a big difference. The more you have, better, really, in my view. Thank you so much, Danielle. That's the last question. It's been really, really great speaking to you, and I find you very inspiring. I've worked with you in the past, and it's great to watch you and to learn from you. So thank you for sharing with us today.
No, that's very kind of you to say so, and I think it's wonderful that you're doing this. It's going to be a useful resource, I think, for people coming up. So thank you for doing them.